Episode 210, Redesigning the Food System. This is the World Organic News for the week ending 20th of April 2020. John Moore reporting. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. We have a great opportunity at this strange time in world affairs. In my own work, a complete lack of clients has led to great leaps forward in the garden space. One person with the time and the seeds can make a difference. As I've mentioned before, I'm employed by a disability day program service, and 3 residential units are in the same location. I've been able to supply them with silver beet, tomatoes, cucumbers, pumpkins and winter squash. Oh, and a whole load of sweet corn that was harvested about a month ago. I understand seeds are difficult to acquire in some places at the moment. My favourite supplier is closed to new orders as they deal with a huge backlog from the start of the lockdown about a month ago. I'm making do with commercial hybrids to get food happening, and I will replace them with heirloom seeds as soon as I can. I'm trying to not let the perfect be the death of the good enough. The point is, we can all, if we have access to even a small piece of land, grow some food for some people. This brings me back to my favourite Bill Mollison quote that, yes, I'm going to repeat. Quote, "The greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production, even if on a small scale in our own gardens. If only 10% of us do this, there will be enough for everyone. Hence the futility of revolutionaries who have no gardens, who depend on the very system they attack, and who produce words and bullets, but not food and shelter." End quote. I see this as a chance for us all to rethink our food systems. The current industrial, just-in-time, don't hoard anything, especially toilet paper way of doing things, is susceptible to minor effects leading to a hungry, annoyed populace. I will acknowledge the work being done by truck drivers across the planet. They are the heroes as well as the nurses and doctors. The problem is the nodes in the system are the weak points. That our greater food system is so reliant on so many warehouses, supply chains and interconnected primary suppliers means that it is fragile. Here's a piece from The Guardian Online, Tuesday the 14th of April 2020, entitled "South Dakota Pork Plant Closes After Over 200 Workers Contract COVID-19. Quote, "A major pork manufacturing plant in South Dakota has indefinitely shut down after more than 200 of employees contracted COVID-19. According to Smithfield, who runs the plant, the facility's output represented up to 5% of US pork production, supplying 130 million servings of food a week and employing 3,700 people. Over 550 independent farmers supplied the plant. The company that runs the plant, Smithfield Foods, announced the closure of its plant in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on Sunday, a day after the state's Governor, Kristi Noem, asked the company to suspend the plant's operation for at least 14 days. End quote. One plant representing 5% of a nation's pork productions? What happens if the virus is discovered in other plants, in other food sectors? Is the urban population reduced to living off wheat bran and porridge? We have been, despite the deaths, lucky with this virus. If it had been an out-of-control Ebola or another novel flu with a 40 to 60% mortality rate, the system would have collapsed by now. But back to Bill Mollison's quote. Just 10% of us need to get growing in our backyards. We've seen how people pull together and look after the frail and elderly, delivering food and other necessities to them during this lockdown. Once we have that 10% growing, we will have built a safety net across the urban, suburban and peri-urban parts of the globe. The rural parts are full of more self-reliant types. We can look after ourselves, and governments know this. Just imagine a built environment that may not be able to completely feed itself, or even though that's possible, see in Defence of Modern Yeomanry, under the blog tab on the website, but which could supply, say, 75% of its own needs until the cavalry arrived. People may be a bit peckish and craving chocolate tea and coffee, but they wouldn't be abandoned without some resources. If we chuck in some chooks and rabbits, the diet becomes a little fuller. I understand this will go against the grain of some. I'm talking to the vegans and the vegetarians now. But they wouldn't be forced to consume anything they didn't want to. We need to get our acts together. Another pandemic is coming, as sure as the next drought is on its way. How quickly? Well, a drought's more likely to come more quickly than the next pandemic, but who's to know? If it's 50 years away, growing our own food won't be a sacrifice, but will in fact make life better. And if it's done in a no-dig way, we suck carbon out of the air, putting it into the soil where it does good, not harm. We can and we probably must do this now. Many of us are moving at a more agricultural pace of life anyway with the lockdown, so why not use this time to learn a new skill? The skill of growing your own food, or at least some of it. There's a link to a Udemy course in the show notes. The course is entitled Growing a No-Dig Garden. If you'd like a little bit more depth into the art of no-dig growing, or you could also have a look at and a re-listen to or send people to episode 207, link again in the show notes, where I discuss growing a quick response garden to get yours happening quickly. Remember, in this painful time, if we put in the groundwork now, we can all decarbonise the air and recarbonise the soil. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week.